What's going on, hustlers? Back to you guys with another video. Today we're going to be discussing how to go from $0 to $100,000 in DLA product sales. Before we get into that, I want to say I have great news. So I got signed off to take my check ride. So as soon as I take my check ride in the next week to 2 weeks, I'm going to go back to the warehouse and record that packaging video for you guys. I'm a man of my word. I guarantee you I did not forget. I got signed off for the check ride. So now I'm just waiting for a check airman to essentially put me on a schedule so that way I can take the check ride and then become instrument rated. And then thank you guys so much for all the support on Instagram. I will tell you guys that once we get to between now and 2,000 followers, so I think I'm at like 1870 or something like that. Everybody who follows me and then DMs me and asks me for this PDF, I will send you guys a breakdown of all the acronyms. So it's like an acronym breakdown sheet when you're reading solicitation. So anybody who follows me and then DMs me from now until 2,000 followers, I'll do that. Or you know what? Anybody who follows me and DMs me, I'll just send it to you guys. However, I do have something really awesome that I want to show you guys. So it ain't much, but it's honest work. So today I won a contract, right? But I'm here, right? I'm doing my flight training. Like I've responded to emails, right? These days I only bid on stuff where contracting officers ask me to get it. I don't really go out and do any more looking just because I don't have that much time with flight training. However, I get a phone call today, right? And it's from Jessie, one of our team members at the office. And she's like, hey, buddy, you won an award today. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, sick. How much was it for? And she's like, oh, it's for $4,080. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Like, I'm not going to turn my nose up at $4,080. However, the sick ass thing about this award, right? Like, I didn't really do shit for this. I sent the email, got the quote, and then bid it. And this happened. I did this weeks ago. I didn't really do shit for this. Now watch this, right? So here is the quote that I got from my vendor. Shout out Tom. I won't tell you guys what company he is just to protect his privacy. But you can see here, he says, we have the parts in new surplus condition, right? I'm the only person that sells new surplus. You can't find anybody else that does that. Or that teaches you how to do that. And then he's like, we can supply the 3 units you're asking for $680 each. So I'm like, okay, I see that. And I'm like, okay, what the hell did I bid this at? Obviously, for it to be worth my time, I had to do something reasonable, right? So then I'm like looking at what I bid it at. Look at that. $1,360. So that means I doubled my money. So I got it for like $2,040 and then I just sold it for $4,080. So I literally just made $2,000 and I didn't do shit for it. Like I was just chilling. And then I got an email and the government's like, hey, yeah, we just bought something from you for $4,000. I sold it at 100% margin, literally doubled it. You can only do that. I'm not gonna say only do it with surplus, but surplus is the way of product sales where you have the highest margins, right? So just to show you guys, I'm still in the field. I'm still bidding on these contracts. Don't think that I'm washed up and I'm just out here teaching. Somebody commented on my last video and they're like, those who can't do teach. And I laughed. I just chuckled a little bit because I was like, hey bro, I'm still out here in the field. I don't think there's anybody teaching DLA that's done more in sales personally than me, and I can guarantee you nobody's done more working with a company and building a company like we have at Two Lions Aerospace. We'll do $20 million this year. Nobody's out here doing more than that. So don't let these haters fool you. You can look us up, cage code A Bravo Papa Echo 2, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. It's taxpayer dollars, so it's public information. Like, I'm still out here in the field. Like, don't forget, I be teaching, but I'm really out here. I'm really doing it. Like I'm doing the damn thing. Anyways, without further ado, let's talk about the steps to go from $0 to $100,000 in DLA product sales. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to determine what your timeline is going to be, because everything that we do, when I say we, I mean me and Namyat LLC and Two Lions Aerospace, we reverse engineer everything. Nothing can be based on feelings. Everything has to be metric based. Everything has to be based on numbers. So figure out what your timeline is, right? So if you want to go from 0 to 100K in a year, then, your output doesn't have to be as much over the course of those 12 months. But if you're in like Richard's shoes, right? And then I think he was doing it like seriously for like, I don't know, 4 months or something like that. And he got to 100K, right? Then let's just use Richard as an example, right? 100K, 4 months. That's $25,000 a month, right? Okay, cool. So now we know that $25,000 a month is what we need to do. Now we need to pick our ticket size, right? So what I mean by ticket size, that's just a term for like sales or business, like the size of the transactions that you're conducting, right? So let's say that there's 4 weeks in a month, right? And you just want to win one contract a month, one contract a week. So 25 divided by 4 ends up being like 6.125. So realistically, you should only be bidding on contracts that are $6,000, right? $6,000 or more. That's the baseline. So now we've got our ticket size, right? So now we're going to go to FPDS and we're going to do our market research. So go watch my video on how to conduct market research. I want to keep this video brief, but I literally showed you guys how to conduct market research on FPDS. Now we are going to go on FPDS. We're going to search by department, right? And then we want it to say Department of Defense. And then within the departments, then we're going to go to agency. This is all on the left-hand side of the screen. But again, watch my video on how to do market research. And then you're going to go to agency, which is going to be the Defense Logistics Agency. So then we're going to go to all the way to the right. Now that we've clicked on DLA, we're looking at transactions only conducted by DLA. Then we're going to go to the right side of the page where you have all your different criteria. So you have your like the date signed, so when it was issued, and then you have your action obligation number, then you have FSC code, then you have NAICS code, right? What we want to look at, the two most important things for us are date signed and then action obligation number, right? So now we want to look at stuff that was recently purchased by DLA. So when I say recently, I mean like anything within the last 18 months is considered recent by my standards. And then we want to be looking at stuff that is $6,000 or more, really like 6.25, 6.5. You could even go to $7,000, right? So now we are only looking at contracts that have been public or that have been awarded by DLA within the last 18 months that are $8,000 or more. So then as you go through that, write down all the different product markets. Ideally, you want to be writing down FSC codes. A lot of people don't know this, but FSC codes is really the way to search. Everybody's using NAICS codes. People throw out NAICS codes because it's a freaking buzzword. And then somebody's like, oh my God, I'm doing my searching by my NAICS codes. I'm doing so much market research. But all these other gurus, they're really fleecing you guys. The people that make a lot of money, they search by FSC code. It's even more niche than NAICS codes, and that's really how you pick a product. They be giving you guys the NAICS code buzzword to throw you guys off their set, so that way they're not making as much money. So that way you're not making as much money as them, and there's not as much competition. I don't care because DLA spent $270 billion last year. 1% of that pie is $2.7 billion. I don't care if I make more competition. The pie's so damn big, everybody can get rich. So you want to write down all the commonly reoccurring NAICS codes that you see, right? Ideally, you want to write down about 20 of this. Like this is your market research time. You want to be doing about 20, and then you want to start to whittle that down. So boom, now we know, okay, we have 4 months to make $100,000. We want to be doing about $6,000 a week, right, in contracts. So we looked in FPDS, we looked at all the things that DLA is buying where they're spending about $6,000 on each of these contracts. So now we've got our ticket size, we've got our product market, and we've got our timeline. So the next thing that we need to do, again, reverse engineering, is we now have our goal, right? And then our timeline. Now we need to divide our goal by the amount of time that we have. So 4 months to determine our output. So what I mean by output, this means two things: the amount of RFQs that you're sending. So I literally have a video about our phone call script and then the email RFQ template. Go watch that. And then the amount of bids that you're submitting. Once we get to 5,000 subscribers, I'll make a video showing you guys how to submit a bid. So then once you've done that, and this number is going to be different for everybody, because if you're unemployed, right, and this is the thing that you're doing all day, then you're going to have more time. So your output is going to be higher because you have more time, right? So you're going to be able to bid on more things and submit more RFQs. But ideally, just expect out of the quotes that you submit, like the RFQs, when you ask people for pricing and availability, only about 1/3 of them are going to be viable to submit, just based on my experience. Because sometimes people are like, we have it listed, but we haven't updated our website, or we have it listed, but we don't have the traceability for it, right? So stuff goes sideways all the time. So just reasonably expect only about 1/3 of the quotes that you ask for pricing and availability are going to be viable to submit. So now you've got your output, right? And you know how much RFQing you've got to do. And then let's say, 3-4 days have gone by, you've got all your RFQs ready to go, ready to rock and roll, and you're getting ready to submit. Now, the real sauce, right? When you're going to submit on Dibs, you're got to click on the top left. Like, it's the first thing that you're going to see when you click on a solicitation to bid on it. You get to click discount terms. You want to do 2% and 20 days. Now, what that means is if DLA pays you within 20 days, you are saying you will give them a 2% discount on the price. Now, why is that important? Because DLA is going to expedite their payment to you. Now, this transitions us to the next step. If DLA is paying you within 20 days and you're getting your quote, which is from your vendor, your manufacturer, you want to be ensuring that they will give you net 30. So not everybody's going to do this, like just being fully transparent. This is not like a one size fits all, but there's a lot of vendors out there that will give you net 30. What net 30 means is you have 20 days to pay them. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you're getting net 30 from your vendors. You're telling DLA that if they pay you in 20 days, you'll give them a discount, right? So DLA pays you in 20 days, and then you have 30 days to pay your vendor. So you have 10 days in between right there, right? Where you essentially can get paid from DLA and then pay your vendor without any capital. So I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that this works for every single vendor, right? I would probably say about like a little less than half, probably like 40% of vendors will give you net 30 up front. So that's kind of how you're basically going to be able to go from being between a rock and a hard place if you don't have any money to finance that. So then once you do that and DLA's paid you, for the next 4 months, do not go buy any Louis V. Don't go buy a Rolex. Don't go buy a Cuban link. Don't go to the club and pop bottles when they're making you pay freaking $500 for Casamigos when it's $40 at the freaking liquor store. Do not do anything. This money, you're not even using it to live off of. Like all the money that you're making from this goes immediately back into the business. I don't care if you're eating ramen. It's 4 months of your life to wake up and then be like, okay, I've got $100,000, right? So now at this point, you will have, after the end of this 4 months, you will have done at a minimum $100,000 in revenue, but ideally you could do $100,000 in profit. If you want to do it in profit, just take everything and multiply it by 10. What I mean by that is, let's just say your margin is only 10%, right? So if you want to make $6,000, then your ticket size is going to be $60,000, which is going to be a 10% margin. So if you want to make $100,000 in profit in 4 months, then you just go after contracts that are only $60,000 and then you just swap the numbers, right? But for those of you guys that are just looking to get $100,000 in revenue, right? And that 10% number is low. If you do 100,000 in revenue, you could easily finish with like an additional 25 to 30 grand in like net profit, like cash, like in your pocket kind of thing, right? But once you've got $100,000 in revenue, it becomes a lot easier to go get a loan. Your company gets put into a different category. You're officially a 6-figure business owner and you're a 6-figure entrepreneur. And then you now have business history. You can apply for lines of credit. It's going to be easier to get net 30. It's going to be easier to scale. Then you have money to pay for that JCP certification, which Richard talked about in the last video, where now you can handle tech docs and then send those blueprints to manufacturers and then have them make stuff for you at a crazy high margin, right? Like they make it for super cheap and then you can sell it at the market rate. So that is what I would do. If I were starting from zero, to go from zero to $100,000 in DLA product sales, and I gave you a timeline of 4 months, you can make the timeline longer. You can swap it out for $250,000. That's how my mind works. That's how we structure things at Two Lines Aerospace. That's how I help structure things with Richard and then all the other clients that we've worked with. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, you can reach out to me on IG, shoot me a DM. You must be following me for a response. If you want that free acronym breakdown sheet, also hit me on IG, shoot me a DM. I'll hit you guys up with that. And then remember, once we get to 5,000 subscribers, going to be dropping that video on how to submit bids in Dibs. And then click the link down below if you're looking for some coaching or some mentorship or some guidance on how to do business with DLA. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, hustlers. Not only am I looking forward to your success, but I'm sure of it. Let's go make those dollars.